going on, everybody? This is a continuation of my ARK Invest stock series. So if you like Cathie Woods and ARK Invest, well, let's be honest, we all love Cathie. Please consider hitting that subscribe button and that like button, as I've already made videos on Square, Spotify, and Roku. But Palantir, this is a relatively newer position in ARK Invest. Palantir is a software company that specializes in big data analytics. They were founded all the way back in 2003, but did not go public till the later half of 2020. Palantir, despite its short amount of time in the markets, is already quite the controversial company. Some people think it leads to tools that might limit our freedoms in the future, while others think that this is a huge opportunity to get into the next FANG'em stock. You know, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, Microsoft stock. Boy, wouldn't you want to get another opportunity to catch on one of these stocks when they first IPO'd? Palantir is already one of the most traded stocks in terms of daily volume. In the past, the US government has been one of Palantir's biggest customers, trying to get their software platform to give the US military the tools to make the best strategic choices based on data. In fact, it's actually believed that it was Palantir's technology that helped the US assassinate Osama bin Laden back in the early 2010s. And that's what this company is really all about. It's about what they can do with big amounts of data, also known as big data, and that's to harvest uncovered patterns for better decision making, whether that's with machine learning algorithms. And speaking of algorithms, you made sure to hit that like button, right? For the algorithm, of course. There's data science models, or just using artificial intelligence or AI. This 2020s decade is actually the decade where I think that artificial intelligence will really take off, and that's really going to help Palantir. We already know the US government has an unlimited checkbook funded by us taxpayers, and military spending will always be a top priority regardless of who's in office. Its Gotham business segment is focused on government projects like counterterrorism. Palantir just signed contracts with the government to launch AI-enabled mission command that is resilient to network failures, as well as modernizing the Army's ground stations. What software companies like Palantir do so well is being scalable without necessarily having to invest more money back into the business. Palantir had $610 million in revenues from the government last year, which is about 56% of their revenues in total, and signed several big new contracts at the end of fiscal year 20. But Palantir is now much more than just a government contractor. It now gets nearly 45%, or $482 million, of its business from commercial businesses. This includes companies like BP Oil, which they worked with them to help achieve their net zero emissions corporate strategy. They've also worked with companies like PG&E, where it collects nearly 10 billion data points a day to better improve its electric grid reliability and operations. 10 billion data points a day. There's no way on earth a human can ever possibly analyze all that. That's why we need technology. We need a way to harvest all that data and find the best business solutions for it. Their most recent earnings presentation lists several of the non-US government contracts that they just signed, which helps diversify its revenue streams. This includes helping the NHS of England to kick off its vaccine distribution and keeping track of all that through its foundry. I mean, this is super precious PPE, and international governments are clearly putting a lot of trust in Palantir. They've had proven success in several other industries, whether it's utilities, oil production, airlines, mining, and healthcare, as we just discussed with the NHS. Their average revenue per customer has increased 41% year over year, going from just $5.6 million to now $8 million in 2020. That means customers just continue to want to utilize Palantir's technology. Their customers include 8 of the top Fortune 100 companies and 24 of the global top 300 companies, so we're not dealing with any scrubs here. Year over year, we're seeing promising signs of a growth company with a big 40% year over year increase for Q4 and nearly a 50% increase in full year revenue. Keep in mind that 2020 was a very odd year, but this company was resilient regardless. This is super impressive, but not nearly as impressive as their gross margins are. Their adjusted gross margins are 81%. That's some of the highest I've ever seen of any company. Their outlook for the future is revenues of $4 billion by 2025, with 30% revenue growth projected in fiscal year 21. One thing that I'm gonna say that's gonna be a little controversial here is that Palantir's business model is a little bit harder to understand than most companies. And remember the famous investor Warren Buffett's quote, never invest in a business that you don't understand. We can easily go to the store and buy some Coca-Cola or Apple's overpriced headphones, but we can't just place a Palantir data dump into your shopping cart. In fact, most everyday regular people can't directly benefit from using them. It's more of these big commercial companies that are going to benefit from using Palantir, at least right now. Now, Palantir stock has actually been on quite a free fall since they last reported earnings, at one point reaching a market cap of over $80 billion to now just about half of that. Potentially with the rest of the market sell-off, this could potentially lead to a very attractive entry point. Plus this options premium is looking pretty decent. I mean, you get paid to buy Palantir stock? That doesn't sound too bad to me. There's also a lot of speculation that their new partnership with IBM can continue to grow in the coming years. Without going into too much convoluted detail, they're working together with IBM to combine IBM's hybrid cloud data platform with Palantir's operations platform. This can simplify how businesses build and deploy AI-infused apps and accelerate their digital transformation. Palantir for IBM Cloud Pak could be used by retailers to analyze supply and demand trends. The actual revenue estimate for this is not yet quantifiable, but the possibilities could be very rewarding. We can see here the different statistics that IBM has provided in terms of how difficult it is to overcome some of the challenges in scaling AI. Now let's get into the most exciting part about these videos, and that's what Cathie Wood is thinking. In her most recent interview with CNBC, she said that she likes how the company is thinking in the long run, and this probably isn't a stock for those who are just interested in short-term results. She also thinks it's very promising how Palantir did a lot of its early business with the government, as that's how a lot of great innovation in the past has come from. Overall, she thinks that many companies can greatly benefit from Palantir's innovation, especially as the US tries to defend itself from China as the world's #1 economic superpower. Palantir currently makes up 1% of ARK-K. It's also found in ARK-W, which is the next generation internet ETF. It's toward the bottom half in terms of weighted ARK-K stocks, and ARK also owns less than 0.7% of all Palantir shares outstanding. But what is very promising to see is that since their last earnings report, ARK and Cathie have started positions in Palantir, and they've actually been buying very aggressively, buying millions of shares even as the stock price continues to pull back. Remember, they're also buying in the ARK-W ETF. So if we go up here, we can see since February 18th, when they last reported earnings, they've actually been continuing to buy even as the share price continues to fall. Even today, they bought basically another 2 million shares of Palantir, which means they could potentially think that the stock is actually a little undervalued, and they think that they're getting in at a good entry point. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. Are you bullish on Palantir? I personally think that this is going to be a much bigger company in the future than it is today. But they could experience pullbacks as the general tech sector continues to sell off here in the short run. Let's just hope that their nickname in the future isn't Big Brother. I also like the exposure I'm getting in Palantir through my ARK-K holdings, so not sure if I want to add more at this time. Because after all, if I'm just going to keep buying ARK-K stocks, I might as well just buy the ETF. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you've enjoyed this content, and I will buy, stash, collect cash you later.